everybody, it's Cheyenne and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a video about matrix bands. Now I've gotten quite a few comments asking me to do a video on matrix bands, and I totally understand why, because when I first started as a dental assistant, matrix bands were very tough and now I can put one together like it's nothing, but when I first got out of school I was like stumbling and everything else about these little guys right here. I don't know why they're so difficult at first, but they really are. And before we get started in this video, I'm going to be talking about these, which are strictly used for amalgam fillings. This is a Meyer, and a lot of offices are kind of getting away from the amalgam fillings, but some offices still do them. Amalgam and composite, you know, there's this whole thing with patients of should they get the metal filling or the tooth color filling, and most people want the tooth color filling because you can't see them. But amalgam fillings are a very strong filling and they actually last a lot longer than composite. So a lot of dentists still do them. They're also cheaper to do, so they still get done. And I still recommend these on larger fillings, especially posterior ones. If I ever needed one in the back, I would definitely do amalgam because they just last longer, they're more sturdy, and composite ones, they leak and you have to get them changed out. But anyways, let's get started on this. So back here, of course, this is a Meyer and it's strictly just used for amalgam fillings. Some dentists will use these for composite fillings, like posterior composite fillings. It just depends on your dentist. I did grab a T3 is what it's called. This is a little ring back here that I'll show you guys too. I'll come a little closer. So this ring and then this little guy, this is used for composite posterior fillings. So some dentists like this system, some don't, and will just use the Meyer. But usually the Meyer is just for amalgam fillings. But again, all offices are different, all dentists are different, and you'll definitely learn that once you start assisting. But anywho, back to this. So this is a Meyer. You can, this part up here is where the matrix band connects, and this little thing down here just makes it tighter or looser, and this will open up the gap, so it'll make the band smaller or larger. So there are different kinds of bands, and there is smaller Meyers. There's pedo Meyers. Now this is a regular size, but we have this band right here. And this is called, well, a lot of dentists call it the dolly, which is Dolly Parton, because I'm sure you guys can figure out why. But that's a little inappropriate. So they call it some people call it the MOD band. It's basically a band that's gonna get underneath the gum tissue if the filling has gone a little bit underneath the gum tissue, or that's a little bit almost to the root surface, just for like larger fillings. But I always call it the dolly. My doctor calls it the dolly. It's just kind of funny. And this one right here is a pedo, oops, dropped it. This one right here is the pedo band. It's just a smaller band. I'll hold it up next to the regular one. And you can tell the difference because this end is a little bit of just a circular. So that's how you can always tell the difference. And of course it's smaller. And then of course, this is the regular sized band. So the most important thing when getting these bands onto your Meyer is you see how it curves up like this? You want it curved up like a V shape. And when you turn it over like this, and you see how this end, it's kind of hard to show on camera, but this end, see how this end up here is smaller, not as large as the bottom end. It's not as big as an opening. See how big this opening is compared to this opening? It's probably a little hard to see. But the smaller opening always goes towards the gum tissue, okay? So when you set up your band, let's say we're setting up one for the upper right. Now, we'll just set up one real quick. So we put it in. It's kind of hard to do on here. I'm just putting it in here. Okay, so it's in. I'm just tightening it so it's in there. And usually you can use an instrument. Here, I have something we can use. Use a makeup brush. So you can use like an instrument to make this a little bit rounder. It will make it easier to get on the tooth, like so. Okay. So when you look at it, you can tell that this is the larger opening and this is the smaller opening. I'm gonna try to hold it in different angles so you guys can kind of see that. So the smaller opening always goes to the gum tissue, okay? And when they put this band in, it's gonna show up backwards on camera, I've decided, or learning. But here, I'll show this on my typerdont. We're gonna show this on here because it'll make it a little bit easier. I don't know, this might be too, I don't know if this is gonna work on here. Okay, this is a little bit, these teeth are really, really large on here, of course, so it's not really gonna fit. All right, so after messing with this for a little bit, it's not gonna fit on this typerdont. The teeth are just too large. So I'm not gonna put it on. I'm just gonna show you the placement in the mouth. So we already talked about how the smaller opening goes towards the gum tissue. So your upper right is going to fit your lower left, and then your upper left is gonna fit your lower right. Now this is only used for posterior teeth, premolars and molars, that's it. The interior teeth, we use a Mylar strip. It's a thin piece of plastic, and I actually was gonna grab one and I totally spaced it. I might have to do another video on those, but those are for interior teeth. These are just strictly for posterior. Now, I wanted to talk to you guys about wedges also, but this band is not going on. Yeah. This isn't working. Okay. I'm sorry, I feel bad. I don't have a smaller one either. This is my only like typodont. But anyways, I've worked in offices where we place these. I've worked in offices strictly where the dentist place these. Most of the dentists will place your Meyer. It's just faster when they're prepping the tooth. They throw the Meyer on and then you fill it. But again, all offices are different. You might have to place them. I would just focus on setting them up. So when I first started out, even now, I always have Meyer set up. So if I set up for a filling and I know it's a posterior filling, it's like, you know, an MOD amalgam on number 3 or whatnot, I always have my Meyer set up. Just use a normal band and just have a few of them set up just in case. Have one set up for, you know, the left and the right side, because they're versatile. They can go down the bottom too. And just have them set aside just in case you need them. Even for composite ones, that's what I always do. Preset those up so that they're ready to go. Now back to the dolly band. So this band's a little bit different. When they place this, it's still set up exactly the same. The curved part, you're gonna fold it. They always are shape of a V. You never fold them down like this, okay? They're always folded up like this, like so. And that's how they're always placed in the Meyer. And then just depending on what side of the mouth you're gonna be on is you turning this for this. I hope this is helpful. This is kind of hard to film in here. I'm learning. So I'm sorry if this is confusing. But yeah, so this is the dolly band in there, or the MOD band, whatever you want to call it. And some dentists will use scissors to trim these like humps a little bit, just so they don't go so far underneath the gum tissue. Wedges. Wedges are these little wooden wedges. Now there's all different sizes. My doctor prefers a size called the Slim Jims, but they're small, medium, large. There's a bunch of different kinds. And you'll use these because when you place the matrix band, you basically will use these for the contact. So if you're doing an MO amalgam, you'll only use one wedge. So you only use a wedge if it's mesial or distal. Okay, that's it. Because you want to keep the contact. So they'll place the matrix band and then they'll place the wedge. If it's MO, they'll place the wedge at the mesial part of the tooth. kind of like this with the matrix band in there. Of course, mine just doesn't fit. And it will keep that contact, so you're able to floss in between it. So when they take off the matrix band, there's a little bit of a gap there so floss can get in between. So your filling's not going to, you know, be too large on that tooth, if that makes sense. So you only use those for contacts. So if it's an MOD, you'll need 2 wedges. If it's just a mesial, like an MO, you'll need 1, or a DO, you'll need 1, just to give the surfaces. And then you also use a wedge on interior teeth with that, but that's a different system. Okay, so moving on to the T3. The T3 is a little bit different. So I'm gonna try to show you on this guy because now some dentists love the T3, some don't. And the reason they don't like the T3 is because if you use like a Meyer with a composite filling, now this is strictly just for composite fillings. This is not for amalgam. This is for composite posterior fillings. Now, if you use a Meyer to do a posterior composite filling, that's an MOD, they can put the band on the whole tooth, do the whole filling. With the T3, you can only do mesial or distal one at a time because the band, it's kind of like half of a Meyer almost. Let me see if I can get this on this tooth and show you guys. All right, I don't know if this is gonna be easy for you guys to see, but see how it's only hugs the front side of the tooth? So they would have to do the mesial portion first and then the posterior portion, or they'd have to do 2 rings on there, which can be kind of a pain in the butt, honestly. But let's just pretend we're doing an MOD for right now. So this tooth here is getting an MO filling, okay? So they'll put the band in, and of course this is after they've prepped the tooth. And then they'll grab their ring, which there is a forceps for that. So they're gonna use their forceps like so to put the ring on. Now the ring always faces, this portion always faces out, okay? It's never down the throat. And dentists will usually ask you to tie some floss onto there just in case it does come off. So I always hand it to them like this, where the ring is coming towards the forceps. But again, dentists might put it on differently. It's kind of just up to yours. So if you can still see the band in there, and basically, oh, it's not gonna work. Let me just fix this real quick. Okay, this is not perfect because these teeth, of course, are very slippery. They're plastic. But the band's supposed to hold that silver part in there. Okay, the ring's supposed to hold the band in place. And then you're able to do the filling. There's also wedges for this too, to keep the contact. So they'll put the wedge in. Again, this is very sloppily done because it's kind of hard to do on here. So they'll put the wedge in for the mesial contact. And then, once you light cure it, it's all set. Then you take off the band. You just take it off the tooth. Remove the band and the wedge. And then you could do the distal portion of it if you're doing it one at a time. Or if you had 2 rings, you could do them both at the same time. It's all a little bit different. Yeah, this is all a little confusing. And I hope this video is helpful. At least get familiar with the system. So the composite posterior system, this one here is called the T3. And it's only for composite posterior. And then of course you have your Meyer. And those 3 different bands that we talked about, the pedo, the dolly, and then the regular size band. And just making sure that the smaller circle is up top, kind of towards this line. You always want the smaller smaller towards the line, larger towards the back. I'm trying to think of how it would be easier to remember that. I always just remember the smaller end goes towards the gum line. That's how I always remembered it. Because if you look at a tooth, you know, they're larger up top and smaller towards the gum line. They kind of curve down. So you always want the smaller end towards the gum line. And then when they're placed, of course, it's always cheek side. Always cheek side. Okay, cheek side. So upper right is lower left, upper left is lower right because it's reversed. All right, I hope this video was helpful. Maybe I could try to get a smaller Typerdon and do it that way. But yeah, matrix bands, they're toughy. And honestly, I haven't really had to place too many as a dental assistant. A lot of the dentists do it for you. But I always just have some pre-set up because I know during a filling, if they ask for one, if you're in a rush, you kind of can stumble with them. Just always pre-set them up before you're filling to make sure that they're ready to go just in case. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful and not too confusing, but thank you guys for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.